Radio X.
You are listening to X-Posure on Radio X. I'm John Kennedy, and that is the Raconteurs with Bored and Razed. It's the opening song on their brand new album, Help Us Stranger, which has just come out, and I'm very pleased to say that Jack White and Brendon Benson from the Raconteurs are here, and tonight they're going to talk us through the whole thing. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
It's great to see you again, and it's great to have you
Likewise.
back again. Because once upon a time, way back when the Raconteurs were just boys, you came in and did an album playback for your debut record and did a very special live-to-air session, which is really exciting. And so it seems like it's been a while. It's over 10 years since the Raconteurs played together, released in a thing. So what brought you back together? Why was the timing right?
Trying to figure that out, the pinpoint, the exact moment, but none of us can really figure out what it was. It seemed to be a mixture of multiple things like timing and everyone else's schedule in different bands. It just all seemed to keep working out in that sort of way. And then we sort of said to ourselves, why has it been so long? I suppose I can have the mea culpa, whatever that, Third Man Records didn't exist when we had our last album, and that's taken up a humongous amount of time. And then another band was formed with the Dead Weather, and we made 3 albums. And then, so those things are. I don't control things ahead of time. If I had, I would have mapped things out very nice and neat for everybody, as far as we could. But it just happened that way. It's strange.
Yeah. Well, it's not as if you're not busy. I mean, the two of you have been busy. Jack releasing loads of records. Brendon, you've been releasing records, working with other people as well. So I guess it's pretty hard to find the time to get those 4 people back in a room together to do what you do. And how do you go about doing what you do? So we've heard Bored and Razed, and that's the opening song. And the two of you are kind of trading both vocals and guitar lines, it seems to me, on that. It's a good example of everybody pulling together at the same time.
It is. That track is a good example of... and. A song, I think song that was written in the studio, kind of.
Yeah, well, it was in the first day.
Yeah,
the first day that was, and then Patrick, the drummer of the band, Patrick Keeler, he basically is responsible for resurrecting that. He was really insisting that we finish this song, and then he's like, "Guys, are you kidding me? We're not going to put that song in there." And me and Brendon we had been working on so many other songs, we hadn't felt anything vocally for it. So I just went out and tried something out, and it kind of stuck. It had this everyone's like, that has sort of a Rob Tyner kind of vocal quality to it.
So cool.
Unplanned. And it was like, that feels very kind of Detroitish. And then Brendon went out and did the second bridge part of the song and wrote a second vocal for it. So that was nice. It just sort of came out all of a sudden once we concentrated on it.
Yeah. And so, I mean, you referenced California and you referenced Detroit in the words. I mean, is that because that kind of came out of what you were playing and what you were listening to in terms of that particular song that you suddenly thought, oh yeah, I could bring in something about Detroit here? Or what was the story there?
He did Detroit because he didn't want to say California, but that's the amount of syllables you had to say. It's either Minnesota, California, or Pennsylvania, or something like that. So.
Right. I think... what did we do? A lot of time, oftentimes we'd get, one of us would jump in there in the the tracking room and get on the mic and just start kind of singing, like not without the lyric sheet, without anything, and just kind of riffing, I guess. And I think I said California, and it just sounded good, and but then I was like, God, California, I'm not really associated with the California. I don't know why I said that.
Though you used to live there.
So I did live there for a long time, so maybe that's why I said it. But yeah, and then we thought, well, Detroit, man, we gotta mention Detroit. So that song was almost kind of cut and paste. Like Jack did his verses. I think the chorus or the whatever the B section is kind of the whole other sentiment, really.
It's sort of based the foundation of it is a live jam with all 4 of us in the room, and so it had a cool loose vibe. And I kept thinking, this has got to start the album off because it just eases you in a really nice way. And then all of a sudden these giant chords hit up, and something interesting might occur in the next half hour or whatever.
It's almost like 3 songs or something,
Yeah.
Like, and Consolers was a little bit like Consoler of the Lonely. The song was like that a little bit too, which started Consolers of the Lonely album. So we thought That's kind of nice.
Yeah,
that works
forgot
well.
about that.
Yeah. It's interesting. When you on this record, you do pack an awful lot into what are generally 3-minute songs. There's like so many different changes and things happening, that really hook the listener in. And there's really unexpected. They've gone over here now, and Bored and Razed illustrates that really well. The way it kind of fades in slowly and then whacks you over the head. There are times when it's a bit like The Who in some ways, and it's really exciting. And so, it sounds as if everything's quite casual in the way that you approach it. You just kind of play around together and see what happens, and then if it feels like it's happening, then you move on with it, and if not, then you move on to something else.
Mm-hmm. It's fair to say.
It's nice to have sort of all 4 members of the band produce this album. That was the first time we really kind of felt that way, that all 4 of us were doing it as sort of producers and involved in it completely. So Brendan and I were writing the songs, and the 4 of us were performing them and also producing the album. Mm-hmm. So it was, and it was the first time we got to record in the studio I built and designed at my house. And the Raconteurs never got to record in there because I built it a year after our last album. So the only band I'm a part of that got to record in there was Dead Weather and my solo stuff.
Yeah.
So that was nice to finally have the band in there, and I'd always been collecting this equipment for a decade. My favorite.
He's got great gear,
microphones and stuff.
Yeah.
The studio sounds great.
Yeah.
It's a good place to do it.
Yeah, so that's Third Man Studios, and that's it, or that's in your house.
Third Man Studio is sort of that Third Man Studio is in my house, and the Third Man headquarters is a different thing. It's a live venue. Also, you can record direct to acetate. You can record to tape there in the large room. Like if you wanted to use like an orchestra or a string section and have or play something in a big room, they have identical tape machines there, so I can transfer the tape straight from my studio to the big room if I feel like it. But so it's kind of a cool marriage.
Yeah, very. And how far is each from the other?
33 feet.
No, in terms of time to get from one place to the. So
it's
to
not
go
very
from your
far.
house,
Like 5 minutes. Something.
Wow,
That's
that's amazing. That sounds amazing. Help Me Stranger is the next song, and I guess it kind of becomes a title track, but it's flipped with Help Us Stranger being the title of the album. Tell us about Help Me Stranger. So who is there an initiator for each song? Is there somebody, and do we associate with the person we think maybe sings the lead is the initiator?
Good rule of thumb with us, I guess, is that if the person singing the lead is probably the person who generated it, and it's not always, but that was a good rule of thumb, I guess, with us. Mm-hmm. That song, I was some kind of demo I did in my living room by myself, playing all the instruments, and then brought it to the band, not thinking it was that interesting. I thought it was several things I played the fellas and Brendon specifically, if he was going to hear anything that he could feed off of, and he did, and wrote a really great chorus, which really turned it into a song. It wasn't really a song before that. It was just sort of 2 chords and just some rambling. And it became that so very powerful where you could really feel all 4 members of the band really playing together. And it was probably the most electric, inspiring song of all the recordings we did.
Yeah, it's got such a great groove, hasn't it? Mm-hmm. And again, element of surprise, because it kind of starts off and it sounds like you're at the end of a hall or something in the distance somewhere.
Yeah, that was funny because that's actually Jack Lawrence, the bass player, singing. He was going into to overdub something, a background vocal or something, and while we were debating something in the control room, he picked up a guitar and pretended he was sort of a 1930s Jimmy Rogers type singer performing the same song in that style, to sort of just maybe make us laugh, But it was beautiful, it was just gorgeous, and it fit so well as an intro to that song.
Yeah.
And I don't know about over here in America, we have to cut that intro off for radio in America because it's it'll just confuse too many people. But it's just an interesting and beautiful thing. I mean, we tweaked it in the EQ to make it sound more like it was a '78 record or something.
Yeah,
with skips in it, and it was just great because it's also great for people to hear what a great voice.
Yeah, he's got a great
LJ
voice.
has.
This has quite a plaintive quality to it, I think. Only Child, and almost when I was first listening to it, I was thinking of Johnny Cash. I could hear Johnny singing this song somehow. How did this one come about? Is this you're taking the lead on this?
This is an idea that I brought to the group, and let's see, what can I say about this song? I mean,
we tried to top it, and we couldn't top his original recording. He did it in his studio.
It didn't quite have the same groove or something, and so we thought, well, shit, why don't we use the acoustics from the demo and tracked to those, and I think we kept the vocal. And so that was kind of a different way to do things, but kind of fun. Again, kind of challenging. Jack has a.
But then you sent the band a bill for recording charges, and that
right,
was kind of messed up.
A session fee. Yeah, well, I just thought
we
that was
paid.
only
We
fair.
paid it. I'm not arguing. We paid it.
Where is your studio, Brendan?
My house,
37 feet from.
34 feet from.
Are we able to draw a circle, and it's all within the same?
You almost could draw a circle. It's like a triangle. The Nashville Triangle, they call it. My studio.
You get away for
third
the
man
next
check.
murder to take place to finish the cycle. It's a difficult
Serial
joke to
thing.
explain.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have
See a lot of murderers. They take a map and they plan all their killings in a pattern, maybe like
Right.
the Masonic star or something like that. So that's what my joke was.
Yeah. You're worried now that people are saying he said murder. What murder?
and when I say murder, I say it in the sort of ubiquitous sense of the word.
No, so I just recently moved house and into a house which has a detached studio building out back, and I made it into a studio, and that's one of the first songs I did back there in my studio. And I love the way it turned out. Jack's got a B-bender guitar, he's playing, which is this, contraption on his guitar where you have to actually pull the guitar, the strap and the guitar to make the string bend, and so it's kind of fun to watch him do that. And I thought it turned out really well. It's
Yeah,
cool. A
I think it sounds great. And is that a keyboard playing that riff on that, or is that
few things, right?
Yeah, there's a few different bits and pieces.
There's a synth that does it. I think we
Talking about Only Child, right?
Yeah, Only Child. I'm talking. I'm not. I got the wrong. It's some days. I'm sorry.
B-Bender's on some days, but everything else you said was Only Child.
Sorry. Yes, the B-Bender was on some days. I don't feel like trying. Only Child, right? Oh, all the riffs were performed on different instruments. I thought to myself, it was, it's almost like that song, that Beatles song where they all play solos. They all play guitar solos. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
I don't know what I'm thinking of.
on Abbey Road.
On Abbey Road. Mm-hmm. And George, Paul, and I think John
And there's a drum solo too.
play, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of likened it to that a little bit. The riff is played, although played by this Jack, I think, every time, but different instrument, synth, guitar, fuzz guitar,
Echoed guitar, bass guitar.
Yeah. Well, it sounds great. And are you an only child? Is it?
I am.
You
yeah,
are.
yeah.
Which is quite a contrast because Jack, you come from a big family, I understand.
Yes. Yeah.
So you are actually singing from the perspective of an only child.
I am. Yep.
Yeah. The prodigal son who gets his washing done.
That's right.
Or laundry done.
My favorite lyric on the album, actually.
It's great. Don't Bother Me is the next song, and in contrast to Only Child, this is quite a rocker, really. So how did this one come about?
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed the title, you said?
Don't Bother Me.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to be really bothered with that question.
That's outrageous.
No, but it had this. We just sort of were jamming a little bit. It was a da 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 boom da dum da dum da dum. It was almost like just kind of getting into something, and then Patrick just kind of came in with a really heavy duty drum beat.
Songs
very
like
quickly.
made for him, written for him.
The drumming is amazing on this. In fact, well, across the whole record, but
Yeah, great drumming on this record.
Yeah.
the goods, and he's incredible. So. Yeah, that turned into something really powerful. So it had to be sort of a really vicious, angry kind of vocal. So
Yeah. And there's this kind of bit where you say "Don't bother me" really, really in rapid fire. It's like kind of cut up or sped up or something.
it's LJ and Brendon harmonizing up high. So it's like something trying to like do. I tried this trick out of my last record, was sort of like to have a vocal that maybe is very different from the main vocal. It's almost a beautiful, inappropriate thing, like I did out of
Almost like doo-wop. It's almost like a doo-wop.
Yeah, we were doing a lot of. We kept calling the album the style of music was new wop that every kid were doing, and then there's something like Born and Raised on like the Who. Then we became calling it Who Wop, and it went on, and I'll spare you the dirty ones. But so there was these sort of doo wop moments like that. But it's like just to juxtapose very different ideas. If you have a really harsh song like that, it's sometimes nice to put something very delicate and beautiful in it, like that harmony, and it sort of sets it all. It sets it up nice.
Yeah, and who isn't bothering you then?
Yeah, who
is
is
it specific?
Well, I specifically put both of my young children in front of me while I sang that vocal. And if you try to make a child cry, and they do, you're getting somewhere, I think, as a songwriter.
That's a kind of
I was told that.
Yeah, that's a Lou Reed approach. There's more than that what he did with Berlin. He was kind of getting children to cry in the background, upset them, some extreme thing like that. Yeah, amazing. Yeah, I mean the combination of the drums and the riffs and the solos in this. Do you like put up your hand and say I want to take a solo, or does it? How do you?
It's very rare that someone suggests something or tries something, and other people think, "Oh no, you're wrong about that. It should be so and so doing that." I think it just just naturally. We all have a good relationship and a long history together, and we know each other's strengths and stuff. And we also know when it's nice at times to shake things up and do something that would be, that's very much like something Brendon would do. Well, how about I'll try it and see what happens. I think we're open-minded in that way. It's not very egotistical or competitive in that sense. It's very much about what's best for the song. And so it's very rare if it's sort of like, oh, I disagree with that, but it's usually like, no, they're probably hearing something that I don't hear. That's what I always think. Say like the song "Help Me Stranger," I thought it was just kind of okay, sort of like maybe a rambling kind of song, but Brendon heard something in it, and then the rest of the band did, and it turned into something like, wow, okay, I guess they saw something I didn't see. So.
Yeah. I mean, and Don't Bother Me is such a great example of all four of the band really letting rip.
Yeah.
It's just a fun rocker.
Yeah,
I think
and to have a drum solo at the end, and it's just ferocious.
Yeah. And in a way, I heard shades of the Left Bank on this one. I think partly because of the keyboard sound.
I'm sorry, which one are we talking about now?
Shine the Light on Me. Yeah.
Ooh, cool.
Yeah.
I love the Left Bank.
Yeah, amazing group. What can you tell us about this? It kind of starts off slow, then gets into a nice mid-pace feel.
This was a song I had written and tried to record on my last solo record at Capitol Studios with a sort of a band of stranger people. I didn't really know anybody except for Carla Azar was on drums. She was the only person I knew. But so it sounded really beautiful at that time with the big Capitol Studio giant grand piano and all this stuff. Sounded really beautiful, but it just didn't fit in with all the other songs I was writing, even though they were all so different from each other. That one still seemed like it just didn't find its spot. And I kept thinking, I think this feels like a Raconteurs song, really. And our fuzzy memory is starting to come back to us that maybe that song might have been the genesis of why we started to get back together and record, but because we can't really remember why. But that's where that came from.
Yeah. And you say you can't remember why. Is this because, you see each other all the time anyway? You see all these four characters in this band kind of passing down the street, somebody's going to the store or whatever it is, or socially,
Yeah. We all live in Nashville, except Patrick lives in L.A., but we see each other often. Brendon and I both have children, and I can't find one of mine right now, but she's going to turn up, or he's going to turn up. I can't remember which one it was. But it's a big property. It's fenced in. They'll be fine. Don't worry. Nobody worry. But
fenced in. They can't go far.
Yeah.
Yeah, we see each other, dinner parties and play dates and cookouts,
supper clubs, jazz, afternoon brunches, cricket matches.
Because it must be like a holiday for each of you, because the other projects that you're involved in, obviously, you're very much at the helm of those things and directing them, and that takes a certain kind of approach and must tax you in a certain kind of way, because the pressure's on you individually to come up with the goods and know what you're meant to be doing.
Yeah, the Raconteurs is great for that, for being able to kind of just sit back, play guitar while the other guy sings. You know what I mean? Like to me, that's really fun. And
it's
a
nice
load
to
off.
trade off like that.
Yeah.
And you know that you're with people you respect, so you're in good. You're in good hands, and you know that the ultimate goal is to try to make the song as good as possible and help it along, whether it's in the studio or live. So it's nice to be able to share the load, like as you were mentioning. It's a bit of a holiday, you said, but
it's great too live. You can go kind of longer. The show can be kind of longer and not get tired, and I didn't realize that until just recently, actually, that I'm singing only maybe half the time, which is great. My voice doesn't give out or anything, and it's great just to play guitar, man. Just want to sometimes just play my guitar, and not have to worry about the lyric and the notes, and
Yeah, because
the man hassling you about your hair,
man.
It's true. I mean, as the front man or front person of any band, there's a lot you have to think about when you're performing. And so you get to enjoy each other's parts more as well, because you can kind of step back and say,
Listen,
he's doing it again.
Step back and listen. Sometimes it's great.
Yeah, fantastic. So some days I don't feel like trying is the next song. This is the one that has the B bender you were saying, Brendan. And this is quite an emotional song. Quite an open, honest. Declaration really about that point that maybe we all get to when things are looking pretty bleak. So I mean it takes a lot of nerve to put yourself on the line like that.
Yeah, it was this was an idea I had, and it did come from kind of a dark place, and it's
like a closet or a cellar or something.
I just turned the studio lights off, and it's one of those things, like I wrote it, and I felt it, and it was whatever, sort of a dark period, with me, and now I'm no longer in this dark period. So
because you had breakfast after that, now you're great.
And, so it's strange to sing that song sometimes. So I'm glad for the ending.
Because it kind of has a second half. Where everybody joins in and starts singing. I'm not dead yet.
Really
so
positive.
Right.
It's a really positive yet also realistic outlook at the end of those characters. It's really nice.
So that turmoil and struggle gets relief. In a way.
There's an upside. There's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that, and glad to hear you're not in that position anymore.
Thanks,
but that's maybe the power of music and the power of the Raconteurs working together.
That's right. Yep.
That helps.
That's what the lawyers tell us.
Yeah.
It is one of my favorite things on the album is that song. I love it being sort of in the middle of the album too. It's a nice little. Is it the last song on side A on the vinyl?
I guess it would be if that's track 6.
Yeah.
That's a good song. And it is great having that second section that,
Yeah, and that was kind of an afterthought too, which was pretty cool, like an improvised section in the studio. I think we, excuse me, we did the song. I didn't think we had it. I didn't think we had nailed the take. So I just was kind of screwing around on the guitar and started playing that, and everyone picked it up again, and I was like, "Whoa, this is great. This is just what this song needs. Just some positivity here at the end."
Yeah. And that's the kind of thing that might not necessarily happen if you weren't all kind of hanging out doing the band together.
Not at all.
No. But that is a Donovan song.
Yes.
So why choose that?
It's like a trick that I started doing like 10 years ago or so, maybe longer, 15 years ago. The idea of just sort of covering a song, any song will do, to get things rolling in the studio. And that was our second time back together, a little session, I think. And I had heard that song on the radio that morning, and I said, "Do you guys want to try this song, Hey Jip?" And Brendan goes, "I love that song." And Brendan pulled out the harmonica, and we all didn't know he played harmonica. And then the Greenhorns rhythm section, those guys, LJ and Patrick, are so perfect for that song. It was just instantaneous. But then there's this thing that backfires about that trick, which is you fall in love with it and have to put it on the album, which it was supposed to just be a Kickstarter to get us our brains motivated, and it ends up being something we fall in love with.
Yeah. Two-Way Army. I think I remember seeing you covered Two-Way Army.
Yes, Two-Way Army. And then on our album, we did the New Pony, same thing with that trick, New Pony by Bob Dylan. And then I did it with I'm Shaking on my solo record. And all of these ended up being released. They all were never meant to be released, which is pretty funny.
Yeah, but it's clearly something that works because it gets everybody energized, everybody having fun, tackling something they might not necessarily have thought of. And you don't
have to worry about
pressure's off.
How the song. I mean, the song. You're not writing the song as
right.
you know the song, so you're freed up to kind of just jam with each other, play, and it's a good trick. Although I think you might want to rethink the trick since all these songs are ending up on the record. Maybe it's not.
It's not really trick anymore.
Kind of
it's more of a bad idea. Purposefully good, accidentally good idea. Maybe let's put it that way.
It's just an approach. It works.
Yeah.
Why question it?
We have to find the appropriate label, John, and I'm not leaving until we do.
And I'm amazed they didn't know that you played harmonica. The harmonica sounds
I didn't know I
amazing.
played harmonica.
Really?
I mean, yeah. I said, well, I'll give it a shot. I think, I've messed around on one, before, but and truth be told, you just find the right key, and every note kind of works. So
That's not true, though.
I mean, there's some.
So one instrument I picked when I was younger, I thought some inspiration for Persian rugs leaving one thread wrong at the end, so that none of them are ever perfect.
Oh yeah.
This thing I was reading about, and I thought, I'm going to pick one instrument to never ever play. I can play anything in my life as I grow older. So
harmonica?
I picked harmonica to never play it, never try to learn how to play it.
Wow.
Never perform on stage or anything.
Right.
So I have no idea how to play the harmonica.
Wow. It's pretty easy.
Well, if that's my that's my wrong thread.
And do you get to play it on stage? Are you doing this one as part of the set?
Yeah, get to play it on stage.
Yeah, right.
I have to play it on stage.
right.
Is more like it because it's all about breath, harmonica, and that's the part that I don't quite get. All the notes, whatever.
He was born with no lungs.
But yeah, it's gnarly to keep that going. Like I've got mad respect for
Yeah. People,
Jagger and Robert Plant. I think played, didn't he?
They're both great harmonica
Yeah,
players.
especially Mick Jagger. But yeah, it's difficult just breath wise.
Yeah. Yeah, and mentioning Mick Jagger in a way that seems appropriate because Sunday Driver is the next song, and this has a Stonesy kind of thing going on, an MC5 thing going on that kind of taps into that era really nicely, and the stereo separation on the guitars at the start of the track sounds amazing.
Yeah.
On the right stereo. So if you're about to listen to this, you need to sort out your stereo and make
It's
sure
great
that's
way
happening.
to use that song to set up your stereo if you want. And
Yeah.
I always use Revolver by the Beatles because it has great left and right separation. You can really tell what's happening.
Yeah, it's a good realization when you know that happens. Once I had a record player and the needle was broken, and The Gift by the Velvet Underground, I'd bought that album on and was listening to it. It's like, oh yeah, this is an interesting instrumental. And it was only once I got the needle fixed that there was this story coming out the other speaker from John Cale. It's like, oh, hang on a minute, this is like a different record. Yeah, that was So you need to have the needle sorted out. But
right.
yeah, but Sunday Driver sounds amazing, and another opportunity for you to all let rip. It seems and are those. The stereo separation of the guitars, is that just one person playing that, or are you kind of trading licks there, or
It was both of us.
Yeah, it was both of us playing guitar. Yeah,
at the same time?
yes.
So yeah.
And I can't remember how most of the songs. I have a structure of the four of us playing something live, and it gets either taken away or added to as we were trying to finish the song. So I can't remember what the foundation was of that. Do you remember?
I think
I was doing the the octaves and fourths guitar. I know that we were doing that. But
I
you did that sort of in that melodious revolving speakers sounding guitar. The one you play.
yeah.
So it was cool. It was like two different styles of guitar playing going on at the same time.
And then it kind of goes psychedelic.
Yeah,
for a
it
spell.
does. Yeah, I like that. And it's funny. My son said that. I was like, that sounds like the Beatles, Dad. I like that part of the song. I was like, yeah, yes, it does. It has that sort of.
I hope it doesn't sound too much. But yeah, that kind of when the Beatles got sort of trippy, kind of.
Yeah.
Eastern.
Totally. I mean, or Donovan even. He gets trippy in
That's
places,
right.
doesn't he?
That's right.
Very much so.
Known to use the sitar.
Yeah.
But what I liked about that track was because the character I was writing about was like he was nervous and paranoid that his sister was getting taken advantage of by this creep or whatever, hoodlum or something. And when Brendan wrote his part, we had been working on it, and we were finally mixing it. I'm like, oh, you know what? It just hit me. I don't know if that's what you meant, but if you don't, whatever. But it feels like the part you're singing in the middle, let's take a drive, is so pretty. That's the villain's version of what's going on. He thinks they're just having a nice time, a nice day, and I'm the one that's my character is the one that's paranoid about, and for no reason. So anyway, forget what I just said and listen to it yourself.
No, I think that's a good point, and that kind of happens often in our music. Like. Jack will have a verse, and we'll leave sections of we'll write sections of music that we don't know exactly what's going to happen or something, you know?
Yeah.
Like that song, Sunday Driver, we had that middle part that, like, and a lot of times it's live and we're kind of looking at each other like, what do we do here? Let's go back to the whatever, you know? So later, I might add something or Jack might do the middle or whatever, and then it kind of maybe accidentally or serendipitously, you know, kind of becomes this
circular thing,
almost this odyssey, like this, this kind of.
Well, it's nice. I mean, if you're in a band, if there's only one songwriter, you would never have that happen. It would be very hard to surprise yourself and sneak up on yourself while you're writing. You know, so those are the beautiful moments that you can only get from a collaboration.
Yeah, which is clearly very exciting, and it must be a real breath of fresh air to you both. You know, where it's like, oh, God, this is kind of great. This guy's got really good ideas, and he just bounces off what I'm doing.
It's a breath of fresh air to me, but not to Brendon because he was born without lungs, as I said.
Remember.
Yes.
I will remember.
I thought that was kind of insensitive.
He breathes through his scalp.
Breathe through my scalp. Through my pores.
We try and hide those instruments that lie around the studio sometimes. For
That's for the
very
morning
reason,
traffic
Jack.
report.
It's dangerous. Sometimes there are bells, and they're kind of. It's like people see them and are immediately lured by the bells, start shaking them.
I love someone needs to do a documentary about all those sort of like morning zoo radio guys in America, because it's just so funny and strange, and what a bizarre thing that people sort of need that while they're having their morning cup of coffee.
It happens in England as well, I think. Like they're kind of amped up. Some of those DJs are just like like
high energy.
It's a like genre.
Getting everybody going in the world.
And in stark contrast to Now That You're Gone, which is quite a slow, beautiful ballad. One of those real moments on the record, and there's some lovely different instrumentation here, and the piano is really great on this song. So how is this one that you brought, Brendon?
This is one I had, and man.
It's it was a little bit dangerous because it has a lot of empty space in it in a way, because the bass guitar is doing this boom, boom. And we were sort of like, when we were first doing rough mixes of it, if you played it through, say, like computer speakers or something, or an iPhone speaker, it was almost like it was all just dead air until the guitar licks happened, because the low tones weren't being reproduced, because you needed like a subwoofer kind of a thing. So we had to sort of find these tricks to make that sort of exist in stereo, like on the radio and on in people's, like the way people listen to music a lot of the time nowadays. So that was a cool challenge to try to overcome, to sort of fill that empty space. And also the fact that it was like, we were very concerned it was too slow, and but it was so catchy at the same time. So I think it really rides this button between too slow and just really, really comfortable, and a sad ballad and very rock and roll. The guitar licks I'm doing are sort of very different from the gentle things he's saying. Yeah. So it's a cool mixture, I think.
And how did you approach getting those tricks right to make sure it didn't dip out and didn't disappear?
We did some octave manipulation on the bass, and he had gone through a bass synthesizer pedal, so that helped us have a little bit of like upper mids and highs, and that's a little trick you can do along with the same note that's happening. So you're hearing sort of like overtones and stuff, so they sort of generate in squawkers and tweeters, as they are called. So you should try to find those little moments, and then you try things like having shaker and tambourine. Sometimes those things like will fill up a gigantic space with just something very simple. And it's funny, you listen to certain recordings from the past and you think, oh my Lord, like it would be like a Rolling Stones song, and you'd say, oh, can you believe how high the tambourine is in this mix? It's louder than the vocal, like 2 times louder than the vocal. And you've listened to it your whole life, you never noticed it, and it's in a way, these are like sort of tricks someone thought of at that moment. Oh, it needs just a little something extra fairy dust on it or whatever, and they end up becoming the glue that holds it all together.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I that song, I could hear the Impressions doing it or something like that. It sounds like the kind of song that they could have, sung. And you talk about new-wop earlier on. I mean, that it would be nice to hear
great to hear that.
doo-wop-y style version of that song.
That song, also, I think we were trying to purposefully kind of mess with it so it wasn't so traditional sounding maybe, and just kind of bringing it something new, a slant on that.
But yours is very like we did the ooh, very doo-wop background vocals.
Right.
That came up a lot on this album. It's just strange because none of us are real like big doo-wop enthusiasts or anything.
Right.
It was just sort of naturally kept coming out for some reason.
Yeah,
And
the Raconteurs brings out the barbershop quartet.
Yeah.
And the song has come a long way live too. It's very cool live. Like there's a whole new. We've come up with this whole new version, I think.
Yeah.
Actually, we haven't like quite nailed it yet, but it's evolving, this song. So
And the crowd
come see it live. It's
learned
almost
all
a different.
the words very quickly.
Yeah, the crowd sings
the first
along.
Couple of
It's
shows,
great.
everyone knew all the words already. It was wow. Okay, so that's very people are responding.
The
to
London
it.
show was crazy. The crowd was just singing along to all the songs.
Yeah,
and
amazing.
yeah, it was really fun.
Instant hits.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And then you follow now that you're gone with Live a Lie. So it's like, right, now we're going to get lively again and wake you all up. No, it's time to stop being sad, in a way. It's an interesting. What are the lines in this? It's kind of an interesting sentiment.
A lot of Brendan's doing this one.
Yeah, this. Let's see. We all kind
Kind of thought it was like
Jam
something
that.
that would be unnaturally for my voice would sing, but it was
right.
like, why
And
don't
I
you try
kept.
it?
I was expecting Jack to sing this song, and
We
I kept saying,
we kept
like, man,
egging him
try-
on. The rest of
try
us in the band
something.
were like, no, you can do it, and it's
like-
people don't expect that from you. So
very out of my comfort zone, trying to sing this one. And the lyric, I was like, well, I don't have any ideas really lyrically. And Patrick said that he was reading some article or saw some, I forget now what it was exactly, but it was about, now I kind of totally forget it was about couples or relationships wherein one person is just sort of in denial about the other person's cheating or whatever, but was kind of happy with that, like that's okay as long
as long as I don't know about it,
I don't know
no
about
harm,
it.
no foul.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I tried to write.
Yeah, from that conversation with
Yeah.
Patrick.
And then of course he asked for publishing on the didn't get it.
Consultant.
Yeah, that old trick.
Is this what you say to the guys in the band? It says, right, yeah, this is a great combination. It's working really nice, and it's all mine.
Exactly.
I walk away with all the royalties here.
It was like getting into this when I was writing the lyrics. It was getting into these characters of nobody owns anything. How can I think it was a Native American chief who'd said that how can a man be so ignorant to claim that he owns the land? Who say this, get off my property or something. How do you what? You just got here. The earth is millions of years old. And so it was just an idea about that, like there is no ownership of anything. This character, and in sort of a way that these words sort of scare pop culture in America, like socialism and things like that, because people don't really actually know what it means, So playing with those ideas,
Yeah.
it's almost like what's the biggest insult you could say to someone who's raised in capitalism is to say, well, no, what's yours is mine. Yeah. What you work so hard for, that's mine too.
When you just say that to watch their facial expression.
What's that lyric in The Passenger, the Jim Morrison poem, the Iggy Pop song? I want to take a ride and see what's mine.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. That's great.
Yeah, interesting. And so, I mean, the way the song kind of shifts around a lot, doesn't it? It's kind of
Yeah,
it
it
has-
was sort of like a combination of different live takes and jams we had worked on,
yeah,
different tempos, and those are the kind of happy things you can get with editing nowadays. I really think that Pro Tools and computers are really excellent for editing. Because the things we tried over the years, tape editing with razor blades and tape, there can be very frustrating, especially if it doesn't work out. You got to take it all apart, and whereas on Pro Tools you can do it in 2 seconds. And so I really like computers for the editing thing, because you can quickly try out an idea and see if it's going to work as far as a structure. So that was a song that really worked out in that sense. You could take out the live things that we had played for like 8 minutes straight and take out the 2 minutes that we really liked of it, and then piece the other part in and see, now let's try to write vocals on top of this new creation we did.
yeah.
So that's what we were working on with that one.
Yeah, so editing worked, and now have you tried to do these shifts in pace live? On,
this
that
is
might be pretty
such
tricky.
a complicated record. I mean, by the time we were done, and so many different styles and so many different instruments, and I had to really embrace this new guitar that Fender came out with that was a half acoustic, half electric Telecaster, and so I could switch between acoustic and electric live in the middle of a song. I always kind of have a distaste for when bands add 7 more members on stage for live, and I always feel like it's cheating or something, because I always think the bands that I grew up with, like the Who, would never have 2 more guitar players standing behind Pete Townsend or something. Maybe they do nowadays. They probably do, right? But back in the day, you were just like, if it was so it's also a great challenge to figure out how can you try to pull this off. All these different things you did in the studio that sounded good at that moment. You weren't thinking about how you're going to play it live one day, and now you have to. Yeah, I love that challenge. It's very cool. It's also quite fulfilling in a way when there is no way to do it. You can't do it. That's okay. Now we get a whole different path, and now the live versions will always be different than the studio version. And I love that too. I love them to be different.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, it really sounds on the record that you're having a lot of fun, and clearly you're having a lot of fun performing these songs live as well. So can we assume that you're going to reconvene as the Raconteurs sooner than 10 years?
Good question. It's
never soon.
Yeah,
The Raconteurs.
Yeah, good point.
But
it would be nice.
I don't even assume anything.
It would be nice. We were in the middle of writing over 30 songs while we were working on this record. So we didn't say those songs are not happening. We just didn't finish them. So we could have kept going, but we thought, guys, we got to pick 12 or 14 of these and concentrate on the ones that are all working together as a unit in a sense. So that's what we did. So we just had to take all of our energy off of those other songs. So they're still waiting to be finished.
Yeah. So that might
happen.
That's an unfinished job that might need attention when you get some time again. Why not? And you'll be buzzing off the touring and thinking, let's go in a room, let's finish it off. And you'll probably end up writing more material that will be, waiting to be finished.
We're lucky.
Thoughts and Prayers is the last song, and this continues the testing of stereo separation, but with acoustic guitar this time, which again sounds fantastic. And then the song builds up quite a lot, and you've got more other people joining you.
Yeah, Lily May, the fiddle player. She's a great solo artist. She's coming out with a new album, actually, on Third Man in a couple months. That's just brilliant. That Dave Cobb produced in Nashville at RCA Studio, and so I can't wait for you all to hear that. But she had come in. She played fiddle with me live on my solo tours. If people are familiar with any of that, she's the fiddle player. Little 5-foot dynamo that's nearby me on stage with the fiddle and the mandolins. So she was incredible. Her and her sister Scarlett came in and we just sort of let them take a stab at what they thought it could do, and she quickly
Scarlett
came out
plays
with this.
mandolin.
Scarlett plays mandolin, yeah, and so Lily May was just pulled out this really fast fiddle thing, and it was just started building up, and then she can I do it another one, a double and a triple, and she tripled the harmony on it, and it just sounded like something like Baba O'Reilly or whatever.
Yes, that's what I was thinking.
Gigantic fiddle build up, and it by the end it was like that has to go at the end of the album. You can't put a song after that in the sequence.
You can't follow that up.
Yeah, it's almost like a hoedown or something.
Yeah,
it sounds fantastic. So, and so what about the song itself? How did this start?
It was a little demo I had done, more of like a minor key, very like a country blues sort of echoey, reverb, depressing sort of vibe to it, and we changed it to more of a major feel, and I had the 2 acoustic guitars between me and him in the 2 channels like you mentioned. So that was sort of the genesis of it, and then it was sort of I was trying to write in a different style as a songwriter of the lyrics and see if I could get into different characters. What in the where's your yonder bag? His whole backpack is a yonder bag.
Very important call coming through.
It's Patrick. So sorry. Late for rehearsal. No,
yeah, of course, that's not a problem. Don't worry.
That's all right. So that's how I was just mess with the lyrics a bit and write as if a different person was writing it, and try to write sort of, as a songwriter, and Brendon can attest to that too. When you start writing lyrics, you're in a little bit of a trap where there's sometimes these urges to be clever and urges to fall into tropes and cliches, phrases, things that you hear all the time, and put a twist on them. So you have all these traps on the left and right side of your path that you're going down, and you're trying to avoid them. And sometimes you're trying to exemplify certain things that maybe were lost to time, and that people used to say a certain thing, double entendres and things like that. Which is sort of like through music history, the double entendre as you go through the 20s, 30s, 40s, 60s. It's always changes in very cool ways, and you learn a lot about the vernacular of the culture if you go back to certain records. So, anyways, this was a sort of a time. These characters were in like a timeless war zone of some kind. So,
yeah. I mean, you could do that earlier on the record too, where you say, "Can you spare time, brother?" Or "Brother, can you spare some time?" Rather than "Brother, spare a dime." Which would have been something that would have been dominant in the first
40s,
part. Yeah, exactly. So you're kind of conscious of these things all the time when you're writing and trying to twist things, because when you're rhyming, it's quite easy to fall into certain things and turns of phrase, just because it just comes out easily. But that's one of the clever things about listening to the words, is that these rhymes, they seem so effortless, but you've twisted it a little bit just to keep it interesting and give it more meaning, more depth.
Yeah. A good one is Alex Turner in the Arctic Monkeys. I really love him as a lyricist. I think he has a very great way of thinking of something very clever and very obscure and presenting it in a way that felt sort of effortless. It's not too clever or something. I don't know exactly how to describe it, but it always puts a smile on my face when I hear certain things that come out of his songs. So he's a great example.
Yeah. So after the Raconteurs, there's a new Brendon Benson solo album on the horizon. Is that right?
There is, yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. When can we expect that, Brendon?
Well,
most of it was stolen from the Little Mermaid soundtrack, and he's currently caught up in litigation with it.
Yeah, it's done, and hopefully, I think coming out on Third Man.
I don't think so, buddy.
You
didn't talk to me about that. John, could you give us a minute? No, just kidding. It is going to come out on Third Man. We're very excited about it. Yeah. And he's an up-and-coming songwriter, and we're very excited for him. He's going to do good things. He's going to do good things as he grows.
Fantastic. So much promise. Brilliant. Thanks so much for making the time to come in and tell us about the new record. It's sounding fantastic.
Jonathan. Appreciate it. Thanks for playing the music all these years, too.
It's a real pleasure, and it's great to have you back as a band together, the four of you. It works so well.
Radio X.